Mark, thank you. From House impeachment hearings to the Senate trial of President Trump to a recent briefing about alleged Russian interference in the 2020 election, he has been at the forefront of these proceedings as well as constant target of Trump tweets.
Joining us now, Democrat U.S. Representative Adam Schiff, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, 10-time elected congressman from Burbank. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Very busy time for you over the past few weeks, so we appreciate your time here today. This weekend, President Trump accused you of leaking details of an intelligence briefing about alleged interference in the 2020 election, allegedly to get Bernie Sanders the Democratic nomination. Here's one of the president's tweets. Somebody should tell incompetent and corrupt politician Adam Shifty Schiff to stop leaking classified information, or even worse, made-up information to the fake news media. Someday he will be caught, and that will be a very unpleasant experience. Did you leak information? What's your response to that?
No, but this is exactly the president's playbook, and we've seen it before. The administration has admitted that it's the Republicans that went to the White House and leaked information about the hearing and complained about it to the president because they didn't like what the intelligence community had to say. And the president fired the head of the intelligence agencies as a result. And this is his effort to deflect from the fact that he fired the intelligence chief for doing his job. That is, informing Congress about the threat of foreign interference in our election. This is a president who will not act to protect our elections. He will not act to deter Russia or other countries from interfering. And of course, this was a president who sought to extort a foreign nation to help him cheat Ukraine that brought about his impeachment. So it's just more of the same from the president, more deflection, more accusation to deflect from his own wrongdoing.
Were you surprised this weekend to hear the National Security Advisor say on the Sunday talk shows that he hasn't seen any evidence or intelligence regarding the Russian interference in the 2020 election?
Well, he sounds to me like he's out of the loop, but it also sounds more concerningly that he is effectively becoming a partisan rather than the National Security Advisor. By pushing out the Bernie honeymooned in Russia talking point, that's for the Trump campaign to be pushing out, not for the National Security Advisor, who's supposed to be above and beyond politics. So sadly, O'Brien is falling into the same trap that anyone that gets close to Trump is of getting tainted by Trump and becoming nothing more than a political animal. This is very dangerous for the country to remove someone with intelligence experience like McGuire, who I didn't always agree with, but certainly was qualified, replace him with someone like Grinnell, who is merely a political actor or hack, who has little or no intelligence experience, because the president doesn't want the Congress informed about threats to our elections. That is just dangerous, but part of the downward spiral that we are seeing with this president.
You wrote an op-ed in the LA Times this weekend that the president is influencing the Justice Department for his own political benefit. You cited the Roger Stone case and Attorney General Barr's intervention in that case to reduce the sentencing recommendation from the prosecutors on the case. Many people will think the president will pardon Mr. Stone. Would you want Congress to intervene if that's the case? And if so, what could Congress do?
There's not much the Congress can do to stop the president from issuing a pardon. I've introduced a bill that says if the president ever pardons someone in a case in which he is a witness, subject, or target, the complete investigative file should be turned over to Congress. But I don't believe that's going to take, that's not going to become law while this man is in the Oval Office. But let's think about just how egregious this whole situation is. Roger Stone was convicted of lying to the committee I chair and intimidating other witnesses to cover up for the president. And here you have the president intervening to try to get his accomplice a lighter sentence, and you have his attorney general, whose only upset is that the president made it public that Bill Barr was already doing the president's dirty work. Bill Barr should have never been intervening in this sentencing to overturn the recommendation of the career prosecutors. So here you have the president in broad daylight intervening to try to protect an accomplice, and also urging the Justice Department to investigate and prosecute his public enemies. It's the worst abuse since Nixon, and maybe worse than anything we saw during Watergate.
You were one of the impeachment managers, made passionate arguments as to why this president should be convicted. Republicans in the Senate didn't buy it, and he was not convicted in the Senate trial. You're now facing political opposition for your seat. People are coming after your seat. Do you have any regrets at all about taking the position that you've taken?
No, not a single regret. And interestingly, the Republican senators, even those who voted to acquit, many of them said the House proved him guilty, but they were unwilling to take the political risk of convicting him. But there were some real profiles and courage that I think validated the founders' optimism that people had sufficient virtue to do the right thing. And there were people like Mitt Romney, who became the first senator in U.S. history to vote to convict and remove a president of his own party. But also people like Joe Manchin and Doug Jones, who came from very conservative states and had the courage to do the right thing. We have to do everything we can to constrain this lawless president. Everything we warned about during that trial is now coming to fruition. No sooner was the trial over than he is now trying to prevent intelligence from getting to the Congress about foreign interference in our election. No sooner is the trial over that he is punishing those who spoke out, like Colonel Vindman, his brother, Gordon Sondland, people at the Defense Department that raised concerns about the illegality of what he was doing, intervening in sentencings, now firing the head of the intelligence community, replacing him with a political hack. Everything we warned about and worried about is coming to fruition. And I have to think that many of those senators are now rueing the day they didn't have the courage that Mitt Romney displayed to do the right thing.
Mayor Garcetti was recently with us just last week, working with the Trump administration's Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson, getting federal aid to help address our homeless crisis here in L.A. Do you welcome that federal aid?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, I'm supporting legislation that Maxine Waters introduced to make a massive new infusion of federal dollars to address the homeless crisis. And I've introduced a bill to try to create tax incentives to produce more affordable housing. It's a national crisis. The federal government has a very important role to play in incentivizing the development of new housing, but also providing the resources for wraparound services to supplement rent payments for those that are low income. We're going to have to do a lot more. It's going to have to be a federal, state, and local effort to address this crisis.
Chairman Schiff, thanks very much for your time, sir.
Good to see you.